Good evening, everybody. Tonight is the 21st of August, the regular meeting of USD 453. I'll have roll call now. If I can find the name. Who is it? Mr. Goodman.
Here.
Ms. Murphy.
Here.
Mr. Powell.
Here.
Ms. Price.
Here.
Mrs. Reed.
Here.
Mrs. Wells, and I'm
Here.
Mike Carney. And we'll now have the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Pretty good harmony. Okay, the district mission statement.
The mission of the Leavenworth Public Schools is to prepare every student for success in every classroom every day.
All right. And we have the adoption of the agenda.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to adopt the agenda by Mrs. Murphy and seconded by Mrs. Price. Is that right? Right.
Yes.
Okay. All in favor? Looks like 7-0. Is Mr. Kramer here? Oh, there he is. You're up.
Thank you for inviting me here tonight for the quarterly update from the city of Leavenworth. Before I get started, I'd like to thank, can personally vouch for the staff at David Brewer and the intermediate school for back to school night. Saw Mr. Powell there, and for the first week of school, as my kids started in those buildings. So thank you, board and the staff of USD 453. So for the city, just a couple updates as we go through, and of course, any questions that you have. A couple events coming up. Camp Leavenworth, the City Festival, is September 22nd and 23rd. This will be the second year of the Camp 5K. So if you haven't signed up for the Camp 5K, this year we have a flyover. We have a better route. Last year we were restricted on our route because we had that big construction project behind the Justice Center. It forced us to loop on North Esplanade twice. We have prizes. We have all sorts of stuff for the Camp Leavenworth 5K, which is the Saturday morning. We have a cool new event going on in one of our parks this weekend on the 26th. It's called LV Arts at the Park, and that is done by the Leavenworth Arts, and that is not a city event, but it's at Stubby Park starting at 10 a.m. So try that out. We have a lot of events going on. We had a big car show at Ray Miller Park this past weekend. That was pretty neat. And then finally, the last event I want to plug, it's a little ways away, is the city's second annual Small Business Symposium is October 23rd. At the Riverfront Community Center. We bring in speakers. We talk about doing business with the city, regulations and permitting, but we also we bring in entrepreneurs to talk to our business owners about how you can grow and improve your business. So that went really well last year. We had good attendance. So anybody is welcome to attend that event. That's again, October 23rd at the community center. A couple projects. Last week, the city commission got an update on the Centennial Bridge. The last one we had was in January. This will be the last one for a while. We showed the final design essentially, but again, this project does not bid until fiscal year 2026. And so the construction is supposed to start in early 27. Again, state funded Centennial Bridge project. There's a great website out there to go visit to see the bridge and what it looks like. Excited about the new federal prison project. The bid has been awarded to Clark Construction. They were given the notice to proceed, and then the contract was approved and going forward. So that's about a $400 million project here in the city of Leavenworth. Very proud that the USP will continue their presence in our community. 4th Street reconstruction through the downtown has been put on KDOT's November bid letting. That's a big milestone. When dealing with the state, if you don't have every single easement, construction, landscaping, temporary, they don't let you put it out to bid as a state project. We had 19 easements remaining about 2 months ago, and we were able to secure those and get it on KDOT's November schedule. So construction on that in Q1 of 2024. So just next year, we'll start the construction of 4th Street through the downtown.
Hey, Mr. Kramer,
Yes, sir.
is that going to just be the downtown area, or is it going to?
Choctaw through the intersection of Seneca.
So nothing past.
So, and then we have a pending grant right now to reconstruct or redo 4th Street from Marion to Poplar. That's again a state cost share grant. We should find out that in September. So we're trying to work on 4th Street, leveraging those state funds, those matching dollars.
Thank you.
Answers your question. A couple other programmatic updates. Ride LV Transit in just its third month had 1,100 riders. As a reminder, that's a three-way partnership between the state of Kansas, the Kansas City Area Transit Authority, and the city of Leavenworth. Huge work there by the Guidance Center too. They do all of our dispatching and staffing, but more than 1,100 riders. The way that we get bigger at some point is extending our hours. It's 8 to 5. We understand people need to be to work before 8, and they have stuff that happens after 5. The 3-year pilot program that's funded is 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. If it goes really well, maybe we can get the entities to change that. I know we've had questions about Saturday service. We've had questions about into Lansing. It was envisioned to be a countywide, and I think it will be one day, but it's starting in the city of Leavenworth. So we're constricted by those regulations as part of the grant, the 3-year pilot program grant. This fall, excited, I saw Mr. Bentley here in the crowd. The pickleball group has been advocates for some dedicated pickleball courts in the community, as it's the fastest growing sport in the United States, as Mr. Bentley likes to let me know. So we're gonna have some public meetings this fall for a big sports court project next year out at Cody Park. So we'll hold those out at the Riverfront Community Center, and we'll certainly put those dates out and invite the public to come to give input. We haven't changed that park in a while. There's racquetball courts out there. I think racquetball hasn't really been a popular sport for some decades. So really excited about that project to bring that amenity to the city. This fall, you'll just see road projects as those have already been awarded. We're just waiting on the contractors to get to us in their schedules. We did some sidewalk work up there by the pre-KK Center. That was a federal grant that we administered. And then we authorized about $90,000 worth of sidewalk repair. Rather than building new, let's look at what's failing, trip hazards throughout the community. So we focused on 6 parks and park adjacent areas throughout the community. And so that work will happen this fall as we try to make the city more walkable for people visiting our parks and just trying to get around. So those are just some of the highlights that I had. Certainly open to any questions that you may have of me about what's going on in the city of Leavenworth.
So specifically on the sidewalks that are near Lawson,
Mhm.
how was it chosen what would be done? Because it's just that one street and it's only sections.
Mhm.
There's still grassy areas
Right.
that's not wheelchair accessible.
So there's more designed for that. Those were called CDBG dollars. And so we are very restricted on where we can put them and what we have to do with those. The city has, that's Dakota, is that correct?
Yeah.
Has Dakota all the way from, I think, 7th to 2nd designed. So we'll be able to come in with city funds and fill in. But those CDBG projects were a separate project that have to be administered separately. And so when we award the city portion of the sidewalk project, we'll fill in some more of that work.
Okay. It's like there's these beautiful
Yeah.
entrances that go to nothing. Just
Yeah. And brick
just
sidewalks and what you can do with CDBG dollars. I know it sounds, there's a lot of bureaucracy. Well, spending CDBG dollars is difficult to do.
And then what is the update around Henry Leavenworth? We were
Yeah.
doing the roads there.
Yeah. So just as a quick reminder, the city was awarded a grant to fix every single ADA accessibility point on Vilas from 10th to 20th. So every ramp on every sidewalk will be ADA compliant. Plus, we're going to fix missing sections of sidewalk. So that's one part of the grant. The second part of the grant is to reconstruct Vilas from 20th to 22nd, putting sidewalks on it. And that is the day school gets out in 24 project. And that's based on when the funding is available from the state. So it's under design right now. So we should have the design done by the end of the year, let the project, and then they'll start soon as school gets out next year.
From the federal prison part,
Mhm.
what portion are we expecting from the city to, I mean, there's obviously going to be construction, and so the workers will potentially stay here, eat here. What kind of revenue are we?
Yeah, we usually see a pretty big influx. It's really hard because those are such unicorn events. You don't have them constantly happening to gauge the impact. Is somebody going to rent out the entire Leavenworth local for a year, something like that? We just don't know. Clark Construction, I think, did a lot of the work on the airport, so they know the area. We'll certainly try to talk to them about staying local, shopping local, living local if we can, because it's a 2.5-year project. But the impact, I'm not sure that we'll be able to capture. Question, though.
So
trash,
Uh-huh.
because we've got a new trash system.
Yes, we do.
Um,
Sure.
how does that work now,
Mhm.
as far as trash pickup? Because I've noticed changes and
Yeah.
and
So we knew this was trash is the most popular service the city offers because we picked up literally anything you put out. We picked up, and if you put an entire house on the edge, we would find a way to pick it up. And that was not sustainable it's not residential trash service, right? There's dumpsters or commercial haulers. And so we get from the transient population, but also long-term residents, we also want the trash carts because they look nicer. And the majority of residents, 86%, I think is what the survey said, could accommodate with the trash cart in 2 bags or less. So you can still put out unlimited bags, but everything must be bagged. No more loose items. And so, but we also offer free large item pickup on Fridays. So we'll pick up your mattresses and your washers and your dryers, but you just have to call us. It's not part of the regular service. So what have we learned? We held a study session last week where we talked about, you're only a couple months into it, lessons learned. We're adding a second tipper on the back of the trash trucks because by the time you get there and load it, you're kind of waiting. So if you have another collector, then they can start on the other side. The other problem with having a collector on one side is you're only filling up one side of the hopper, so you're running the compactor more often. If you have it on both sides, you can alternate. Just these little things that help us improve our speed. We're still seeing people who are trying to game the system. They'll put loose items on top of their bags, hoping that we'll pick up the loose items to get to the bags. So at some point, July 31st is when we put the rules really into effect. No loose items, no construction debris, those kind of things. And we're seeing a lot of compliance and still a few that aren't complying. But again, no limit on bags. So you can, when the fall season comes, you can put out 50 bags of leaves if you want. You can still fill your trash. The other thing we've run into is staffing. I've heard, you had 2 years to run up this. Well, if I could overhire by 2, I would. It's a very difficult job. It's a skill position level that we compete with the county, with the prisons, with private enterprise. And so we actually, knock on wood, have a couple starting this week. And so hopefully staffing gets to a level where we can complete our routes every day. Does that hit the high points?
yeah, I mean, I've noticed that trash has come a day later. Is that just because it's slow, or has there been a schedule
about
change?
10% of the route we are not. If we get behind Monday,
Mhm.
then it's not about you were also behind Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. It's because on Monday morning or Tuesday morning, we're going back out and collecting what we didn't get to Monday. The heat this week is not helping. We will probably be behind, but normally you will be picked up the first thing the next morning if we didn't finish that day. So the second tippers, more staffing, staff familiarity with the carts, better awareness of the rules and regulations of the program. It's a learning curve right now, and I'm hoping that by fall we'll be in a position where we finish every day.
Is there an extra charge on those Fridays?
No, there is no charge for large item pickup. We just ask that you call and schedule it, and we'll send out the crew. We have the grappling truck if it's too big. We have, the crews can pick up stuff. But the goal of this was no extra charges. For 2024, there is 0 increase in your refuse fee. The carts were funded by one-time ARPA dollars that we did. We did not do a surcharge or a supplemental fee to the residents. And so we tried to make this no impact to the cost for our customers.
We still have a free trash day on beginning of the month.
Yeah, and that's what
correct?
we're pushing people to, that free first Saturdays. Please take all your stuff there. It's unlimited. It's in the middle of town. It should be accessible to just about everybody. If you miss one, you only have to wait about 30 days and we have it again. The brush site for all of your limbs. There's a lot of places in this community that you can take your yard waste or your household waste. So we try to have those opportunities for everybody.
So when you call to have the large item pickup, is there a best time to call? Would you prefer they call by Wednesday before close, Thursday before
So
close?
they'll have a schedule. If you call Wednesday, they're probably not coming that Friday. I would probably try to see if you can about a week ahead of time because it is limited. Our refuse workers are on 410s. And so because that's when the trash days are. So we have a couple each week that they wouldn't work on a Tuesday so that they do that on Friday. So there's, a smaller crew and then it stacks up pretty fast. So we can get there pretty quick, but probably not 24 or 48 hours.
For some reason, I get lots of questions about how the trash works.
Oh yeah, I
I
mean,
don't know.
trash is the most visible
That's
city
not my
service, maybe outside of
forte.
police and fire. So we knew that it was going to be a learning curve when you went to this, but the rest of the world's figured it out for 30 years, so I think we can figure it out.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just glad the murmuring from the crowd gave me heart because I thought I was the only one that didn't know what was going on.
Yeah, and we tried. I think we ended up with 13 public meetings in some ways, but I understand, Tuesday nights at 6, we don't get many people in person, and so it just takes a little bit of time.
So along those lines, other than having the public meetings where you discuss the changes, how else did the city put out the information to residents?
Oh boy, I'd have to count the social media posts, and I bet there are north of a dozen. City newsletter. There were numerous articles in the Leavenworth Times. Every time we held a public meeting, we actually impaneled a citizen refuse solid waste task force that we had applications that came in, and we had a good turnout from that. Then we did Survey Monkeys, and the task force meetings were open, and they met, and then they presented to the commission. And so it was a long process that we had a lot of public input in.
I got one more concern. What do you have set days when you burn down there at the brush dump?
No. So the question was, when do we burn at the brush dump? It's condition determined. So we get to a point in the year where there's no fire day. It's not one of the red flag days type things. When there's enough stuff, when the wind is blowing in the right direction, and then we try to announce it a couple days ahead of time. But it's not a set day. It's usually as conditions determined.
Anybody else? Thank you for coming.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving right along. Where we got the consent agenda. We want to make a motion on the consent agenda?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda as it's written, unless someone has something they want to pull off.
Anybody want to pull something? Okay, did anybody second that?
I'll second.
So we got a motion by Mrs. Murphy to accept the consent agenda, seconded by Mrs. Wells. All in favor? No? Did you want something off the agenda?
Oh,
It's too late, but I mean,
I know. No one else was interested in the matter, so I just vote no.
oh, okay. All right. So where are we? Scheduled patron input. So I'll go through the rules of the road here real quick. I'm sure most of you out there have heard it, but we're going to do it again. The board appreciates patrons taking time to talk to us about our policies and procedures. We set aside this time every meeting to hear from the public. Your comments should be directed toward board policies or the procedures our administrators established to carry out those policies. This is not an appropriate time or place for patrons to make comments of personal nature about any district employee or student. Persons making comments which violate the privacy rights of district employees will be asked to terminate the remarks. If a patron or parent is a concern with one or more employees, the board will refer that person to the appropriate employee or the superintendent. If the board refers your concern to the administrator for investigation, the board will hear about it in a future meeting, and you can expect the superintendent or another district employee to make arrangements to meet with you at the appropriate time. So with that, we have first up Mrs. Pryor. Mrs. Pryor. And you have 3 minutes, and you'll get a warning towards the end.
Okay. So, school board, everyone, thank you for letting me be here. I come as a taxpaying citizen of Leavenworth. Every working citizen and homeowner in this country is being taxed to death. So if you sit in a position to help alleviate some of that financial burden, why not do the right thing by voting to be revenue neutral like Lansing School Board did for their citizens and help the tax-paying citizens of Leavenworth? It is not like, I know you guys have a lot of money sitting in all your accounts, plus the food tax relief doesn't even start till 2025. As a veteran homeowner, I don't even qualify, and I know I'm not the only veteran in Leavenworth that does not qualify for that tax relief bill if it gets passed in the Kansas House and legislature. So why not help out where you can to alleviate the taxation that is going on in this country right now and help the citizens, especially those on a fixed income? You know, food, some people can't even afford to put food on their table right now or pay their bills. So why do we continue? And I know you guys have nothing to do with the assessor's office. They're next on my list, but just you have the ability to help alleviate some of this tax burden that the tax-paying citizens and homeowners of Leavenworth are having right now. So I am here to ask that you guys remain revenue neutral again on taxes. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bentley?
Thank you, School Board. My name is William Bentley. I've lived in Leavenworth for 32 years. I believe this meeting should not be about members of the public coming and asking you to remain revenue neutral. I feel that this board should be presenting numbers to the community indicating why you need an increase in the budget. And here's just a few of my thoughts that you could run as numbers. And I'm sure the CFO for the school board and Mr. Adams could come up with others. The number of students enrolled for the last 5 years, FTE per teacher for the last 5 years, admin staff FTE for the last 5 years, FTE teacher to student ratio for the same time period, FTE admin staff to this ratio to the last 5 years. You could show the total budget for the last 5 years and then break it down to show personnel by FTE for both teachers and admin staff, then categorize the remaining expenses into the 5 top categories. We'd like to see the number of students enrolled by elementary, middle, and high school for the last 5 years. We'd like to see new positions that have been filled and why. I'd like to know the average size grade level for a kindergartner through 12. Funding by state has been provided to the school district for the last 5 years. I'd like to know if you track students who pull out of school to go to homeschool and those numbers. I'd like to know how the students compare academically to the national average. These are just some of the things that came to my mind as I was thinking about this meeting tonight. As a resident of Leavenworth, I want to know why my money is being spent on frivolous, so it's not being spent on frivolous things. Last year when the parking lot at the Henry Leavenworth School was being completed, they asphalt the whole parking lot. I thought that was a little excessive. In the video by Dr. Adams, he mentioned that the school board had reduced the mill levy 16 mills over the last 10 years. But I felt that that was a little misconstrued because even though that's true, because the valuations of our homes gone up, your budget has increased. Finally, I'm sure you heard, as the lady before me, point out that the Lansing School Board voted revenue neutral for their citizens this year. And that's what we're asking for you. If you can justify the need for an increased budget, I'll vote for it.
Your time's up, Mr. Bentley.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, let's see. We got Ms. Millar. Is it Millar? Millar.
Thank you very much for putting me on the docket. My name is Michelle Millar, and I live at 1935 Woodridge Drive here in Leavenworth. I have no children in the school district, never have. I'm just a taxpayer. This is not where I want to be. Public speaking is not my thing, but I did feel compelled to come and talk about the tax increase that you're proposing. I had tried to contact a couple of board members via email, but I did not get a response back, so here I am. In my online research, I discovered some of the following statistics. The Leavenworth School District revenue to student ratio has grown 9% over the last 4 years. And in the Leavenworth School District, spending to the student ratio has grown 40% over the last 4 years. Leavenworth has approximately 42% more students than the Lansing School District. However, we have 3 times the number of administrators. Lansing School District has 14 administrators. On the Leavenworth website, it says that we have 41. So kind of wondering why that number is so much bigger. Just because we've increased the spending to student ratio, it doesn't seem apparent that we are doing a better job of educating our students. Money doesn't seem to equal success. Hence my reluctance for another tax increase. The proposed increases exceeding the revenue neutral rate will, for me personally, increase my overall tax bill by 12.5%, with the majority of the increase, 62%, going towards the school district. The school portion of the tax increase for me equals approximately $45 per month. The superintendent had said in his video that I watched that it would be an increase of approximately $5.70 per 200,000 of assessed property value. So I'm not sure where the math is off because I do not have a multi-million-dollar property.
15 seconds.
This increase far exceeds the record rate of inflation. Also with Lansing voting revenue neutral, I hope that y'all would consider doing the same. I think it will put us at a disadvantage in Leavenworth as property owners. I don't know how I'll ever sell my house based on my property taxes. Thank you.
Mr. Claire?
Good evening. My name is Jason Clare. I live in Leavenworth City and I have one child at the high school. Reportedly, the Leavenworth School District has a cash reserve of about $13 million, which is an increase from the previous year. This was achieved while remaining revenue neutral after having invested in our staff by providing them raises last year. Despite this reserve, you propose to raise our property tax. Instead of putting taxpayers on the hook for more money in this tight economy, why not take a look at your expenditures? Recently, I looked over the district's monthly UMB bank statements for April 24th to May 23rd, as published on the district website. There were $168,127 in credit card charges, which do not include other operating expenses for the district. Though all of these charges are most certainly legitimate and justified, how many were not necessary? The published statement is not detailed enough to know for certain what was purchased under each charge. One can only hypothesize for some based upon the businesses listed. Charges like those made at Casey's and Phillips 66 most likely were for gas, Leavenworth paper for school supplies, Home Depot for various upkeeping projects, all justified and most likely necessary for day-to-day operations. What about the $1,418 to the T-Bones baseball team, or $8 to McDonald's, $16 to Donut Palace, $30 to Ozark Delight Candy, $64 to Papa John's, $148 to Good Sense Subs, $188 to Luigi's, $244 to Abe's Place, or 155 charges to Amazon Marketplace totaling more than $24,000 that are not publicly itemized. An itemization is available if requested, but this requires staff time and research to respond. 2 charges I was curious about and had inquired of totaled $1,420 for Grandma's Office Catering. It's a Kansas City, Missouri business that was hired to cater the annual staff appreciation luncheon at Warren Middle School. I am certain we could have saved money by contracting a local catering business, of which there are several, and kept that money in our community. Again, I'm not disputing the legitimacy of any of these charges, just a necessity during a time when our elected officials want to deal with rising inflation by raising our taxes, rather than putting in place checks to existing spending. By eliminating just 5% of this 1 month's credit card expenses, the district could save $88,400. Multiply that by 12 and potentially save more than $100,000 throughout the year. I can afford to pay these taxes, but a lot of people can't. Nearly half of Americans have less than $500 in their personal savings accounts. And you darn well know, for those who don't own property, their landlords will pass this expense on to their tenants. In this small businessman's opinion, you can find ways to budget and save your constituents and pioneer parents. Do and grant us, the community, with another
15 seconds.
revenue-neutral year. Thank you.
Mr. Schmidt?
I'm Tom Schmidt, a taxpayer in Leavenworth. Taxes and objective results. First, schools district treasury report reveals over 31 million in unspent reserves. 11 million is committed to capital expenses, I understand. But that leaves 20 million for other items, including 1.9 million in the general fund, 1.9 million in the contingency fund, and 2.2 million in special education. Proposing a 15% plus increase in tax dollars from local citizens who are already struggling with 13% national inflation tax over the last 2 years is utterly irresponsible, particularly when we have millions of reserve dollars on hand. The second issue is one that, if not remedied, will continue this crisis in education that we now face. We are near the bottom of the state in meaningful statistics to include in science, math, English, language arts, dropouts, and absenteeism. The district's reviews for the 23-24 budget all call for increased funding in multiple areas, but they never mention measures to assess results. The writers suggest their recommendations will impact, but virtually all are merely wishes and hopes. Many have been tried for years, and we've seen little in results. Now we want to double down by spending more on the same that we have used. SEL is an example when suicides have increased exponentially, absenteeism has grown, and student misbehavior has reached epic proportions. One last thing. The district's budget considerations report asks for targeted ways to reach goals. Many presented are soft and squishy goals, and they do not offer results of past efforts or objective measures to assess proposed fixes to our problems. We get fuzzy words and then a telling statement that was repeated often, and I quote, that statement is, and though we use our assessment scores for academic achievement, these are only one measure to gauge proficiency in student access. In other words, they're saying, we're not accountable for our failing academic achievements. They're not a big deal. And we won't even offer objective standards or timelines for assessing efforts in other areas. Yes, assessment scores are one measure, but they are the ultimate measure of whether we're preparing students for the future. With that throwaway line, assessments are only one measure. District staff fails to give objective justification for funding increases for any proposed remedies. One assesses organizational efforts by objective
15 seconds.
If we throw tax money at unmeasured recommendations, we're doomed to get the same downward spiral, and we're going to pay a lot of money for it. Do not increase the tax assessment. Insist, finally, on objective measurements with timestamps before implementing efforts. Do your duty.
Mr. Price?
Thank you, Board. My name is Eric Price. I live in North Leavenworth and have had a child in this district for the last 12 years. I'm amazed at the near constant barrage of attacks on our schools and on the school board, and would like to suggest that this anger is completely misplaced. Let's take a couple of examples. There's been a lot of shouting in the socials recently about the school budget and its impact on taxes. Well, none of us like to pay taxes, but what are the facts? Taxes on my home have gone up 26% in the last 10 years and 36% over the last 20. Over that same 10 years, the taxes levied against the school budget have gone up only 17%, from about 12.3 million in 2013 to 14.9 million in this year's budget. But according to the government's own consumer price index calculator, 2013's $12 million would cost $16 million today. So our budget isn't even keeping up with inflation. But the real driver of increased property taxes is property valuation, a process not within the purview of the school board. So if you want that fixed, you need to start with the legislature. You know, the place where the loudest attacker of our school board works. Let's remember, too, that those that have been complaining the loudest about the budget are also generally supportive of directing our tax dollars away from public schools and into private education, where folks can profit off of our taxes, while the schools will be forced to do the same mission with even less. Imagine the long-term impact of that approach on our community. Actually, you don't have to imagine. You can look at the impact of segregated schools less than a century ago to see what such a have versus have-not scheme creates. How about those complaints regarding curriculum? I'm pretty sure state standards do not allow us to just teach reading, writing, and arithmetic. So if you don't like social emotional learning, then I again point you to direct your angry demands at the legislature. They're the ones who passed the law establishing the Rose capacities in 2014 that are the basis for SEL education in our schools. But I'd advise against it. We're not educating kids for the industrial age of 1930, but for the information age of 2030 and beyond. In this globally connected world of increasingly diverse workplaces, kids need more skills in self-management, working together, and appreciating the value of difference, not less. As always, and especially with the next election cycle looming, I hope each of you will continue to stay focused on providing for an excellent education to all of our students in a safe and welcoming environment. Thank you.
Okay, that's it for the patron input. We'll move on to, where are we? Item 6. That must be the seating job, right? Oh, publications code 99. Sorry. Can't see what page I'm on. Oh, Beth, you're here to do that. Good.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So tonight I have the privilege of going over some information for the budget, and so we'll get started. So first here we have just a little chart showing previous year student enrollment and our projected enrollment for 23-24. This is grand total head count of students from pre-K through 12th grade. So our projection is 3,545 students. Last year's actual was 3,568. And our highest point that I've gone back to is the year 2018-19 of 3,769 students. So our district is declining in enrollment in students. Students are enrolling every day for the current year. And September 2023 is the student count days when we get to measure, okay, these are the number of kids we have in our district for the school year. Our current enrollment as of today is 3,436 students. So we are actually less than what we're projected. So hopefully those students that are still out there enroll and come to school. This next chart is updated with showing previous year's actual expenditures for 3 years and projected expenditures for the 23-24 budget. These totals are for all district funds included on the notice of hearing that is published in the paper. The projected increases are shown both in dollars and percentages. As you can see, we have a $30 million projected expenditure for salaries. That's a $2.2 million increase, a 7% increase from 22-23. Property insurance also has a 20% increase. Mr. Riley presented that information to us. So our dollar increase is $77,594 for property insurance. Motor fuel projected increase, and that's not for the school bus, that's for district vehicles, maintenance vehicles, security, and athletic trips for the high school students in the district vans. So my estimate there might be a little low, but right now it's for 23%. And our largest increase is in the area of district health insurance for employees. Due to a large number of claims, our experience and cost for health insurance went up. So it is a 40% increase. The district sources of revenues to fund the projected expenditures for the budget are 64% from state funds, 20% from federal funds, 16% from local funds. I have compared our projected expenditure increases to the Consumer Price Index for the Midwest region. In June of 22, the CPI was 9.5. In June of 23, the CPI is 2.4. But unfortunately, our expenditures are not declining. We look at our mill rates over the years. The projected estimated mill rate for the 23-24 budget is a total of 56.259 mills. The general fund is set at 20 mills by state statute. The bond and interest fund is a factor of debt service payments approved by voters for the 2018 bond election. And the bonds we've refinanced the bonds, but the last payment for the bonds is in 2032. Capital outlay fund is set at 8 mills, and that's adopted by the Board of Education. The supplemental general fund is a factor of the 31.6% LOB percentage of the general fund, which is also set by state statute. This was the revenue neutral tax rate notice. Our total estimated taxes levied on this notice is $14,896,202. And we can break this down into two categories. $4,807,202 is the general fund estimated tax levied. And if I subtract that from the actual tax levied for the 22-23 budget, then the difference is $540,839 increase in tax levied for the general fund. All the other funds total is $10,089,000, subtracted from $8.5 million for last year. It's an increase of $1.5 million for a total estimated tax levied increase of $2,063,052. So this is what the notice says. Okay. A mill rate neutral option, if we were to look at that, would reflect a capital outlay estimated tax rate of 5.275 mils. And again, we break this down into two categories. The general fund amount is still the same, $540,839. All the other funds become $9.3 million, subtract from $8.5 million, give you a difference of $761,539, total increase of $1.3 million for taxes. The revenue neutral tax rate option, again, capital outlay, estimated tax rate goes down to 0.619 mil, so less than 1 mil for capital outlay. General fund remains the same, $540,839. Everything else becomes 8 million, but last year's was 8.5 million. So there's a decrease there of 538,000. But overall, the effect is $2,672 to be revenue neutral. It's also, can't remember which button here, but the revenue neutral rate for the general fund, the 17.734 mils, the district cannot lower the general fund mill rate below the 20 mils because the 20 mils is set by statute. So looking at those options, we'll walk through it, how it would flow through capital outlay. Our July 1 cash balance is $10,133,733. With 8 mills, the property tax levy is $2.2 million. State aid is 55% of the $2.2 million. So that becomes $1,228,000. You add the two together, you get $3,461,000. You add $3,461,000 to $10,133,000, you get $13,595,000. So that would be the total available for expenditures. The $5.275 million is less. So our total available is $12,416,000. Going to the revenue neutral rate brings capital outlay funding to $10,401,000. So if we review our capital outlay needs, we have facility expenditures that we budget at $1.8 million, and that takes into consideration all these multiple list of things. And Mr. Dedeke had walked the board through this on August 3rd. So just as a review, we have security system upgrades that we take into account when planning for the $1.8 million, classroom furniture, roofing repairs, and concrete and asphalt repairs. And this is to maintain our facilities that we have invested quite a bit of money into. Technology that we plan for is $517,000. That's the annual refresh we do of computers for both students and staff. And I say computers, but it's not just computers. There's other things that fall within the technology category, but it's all technology related. The district expenditure, kind of another category for any architectural needs, a property acquisition, some other furniture, is $683,000. We have emergency funds that we kind of set aside of $2.5 million. And we have a couple of those needs kind of coming up that are unplanned. There's a boiler that needs a repair at one of the elementary schools, and the part for the boiler is no longer made. And the couple other boilers in the building, they're all around the same age. So one goes out, the others are not far behind it.
Mhm.
So that's not planned. The other thing we have is erosion at the visitor parking lot at Pioneer Stadium. That's going to need a repair. The other big item there is the property self-insurance of $4.5 million. And the building insurance values that's $213 million. So we take that times our 2% deductible. So we have to have $4.2 million, 4.3, values aren't going down. And if a tornado comes through and damages a building, we have to have that money on hand first before the insurance will pay for any repairs. Ongoing discussions that we have on capital outlay needs are Nettie Hartnett improvements, Quest 18 to 21 house, any parking and land acquisition for expansion and other improvements, and the strategic plan that we've started. There's other needs that I'm sure that'll come out of that process, so that we always have that planning thing that we do going on. So we have to plan for our needs. So Code 99. This is the chart that will appear in the paper. This is the grand total for expenditures by fund. Each fund is listed one time. This is the publication of the proposed budget expenditures. It sets the district spending authority, and this is a spending estimate. The general fund, supplemental general fund, and all the other special revenue funds, all are projected budget expenditures, include increases as previously shown for all the categories for salaries, transportation, property insurance, health insurance, some contracted services. The increase in federal funds, $10.6 million, that is largely due to our ESSER dollars. We have to have our ESSER dollars spent by September 30 of 2024. So this is the year we're going to have a lot of expenditures for ESSER. And again, ESSER is all things related to the pandemic. There's our capital outlay budget of $10 million. We also have to have a higher budget for capital outlay in case some of those unforeseen needs come up, because we can't republish the capital outlay budget. So we have to have the authority for it. The food service fund expenditures are also up. And just a reminder, all students who choose to eat get to eat one free breakfast and one free lunch at school every day. And this is a savings families should be seeing and feeling already. On the next page, we have special education. So that is budgeted high because we have to have the authority for demand for a service that could come up for a special ed kid. Textbook adoption and activity funds there do not have a budget, but the textbook fund is there for the spring textbook adoption that the board approves. Bond and interest is the principal and interest payments for the bonds. So as you can see, actually in 22-23, our bond payments were down a little bit and now they're coming back up. So there's a slight increase there. Overall, the budget is higher so that school district operations can adjust to different needs during the school year. The mill levy increase, as here on Code 99, is 2.725 for the mills. The last thing I have, and that's the chart for revenue neutral that would also appear in the paper, is with discussion tonight, the board would need to approve to set the revenue neutral tax rate hearing, the budget hearing, and approve publication of the notice of hearing the budget. That would appear in the paper on August 24th. And then September 11th would be the hearings and approval of the budget. And then the budget is submitted to county clerk on September 18th. Any questions? I know I went through that quickly, so.
So just to drive that home, you're not approving a budget tonight. You're approving publication to be ran in the paper for purposes of that 10-day window. The actual approval of the budget and the subsequent hearings would occur on September 11th. So just want to make certain what we're doing tonight.
I have a real question real quick, and it has to do with the bonds.
Yeah.
When we got this most recent bond that did Lawson and the front of the high school and everything else, were we also coming off of another bond as we started
Yes.
that new bond?
Yes, the debt service schedule is already reflective of bonds maturing and then
Right. So
adjusting the other remaining schedules.
no, that part I remember, but not everybody else may have.
Yep.
I lost my train of thought. How much did it increase our taxes when we got that bond issue? 0.
So that was in 2018-19.
Well, I thought it was 0, but I want to hear it.
It was a no tax increase.
That's what I thought. And what was the tax increase on the bond previous to that? Because I don't remember. I wasn't
would
on
have
the
to
board
look.
when we did that.
I was here, but I don't remember off the top of my head.
It
Yeah.
was like 2008, wasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, it was in 2008.
So it's about every 10 years.
Yes.
That a bond's done, or about maybe
Yes.
8 years if we're going.
Yes, so I think my thoughts was 2030 would be a planning year to determine whether or not we would do another bond election.
Okay, that's what I was thinking. We were coming kind of close.
Yes,
Ms. Maddox,
yes,
I talked to you this afternoon.
yes.
I received a budget when I got here. Can you tell me is there a difference in this between what we were going over earlier this month? What would that mean?
I updated a few of the charts and we added the capital outlay because earlier that was a separate presentation. So I added that. I added the enrollment chart. But the code 99 is the same.
So the previous year's actual expenditures
Yes.
slide. So it says 2021 total expenditures at 32, 21, 22 total expenditures at 33, 22, 23 total expenditures at 35 without showing the budget for each of those years.
Right. I apologize. I just didn't
No.
have time to get it.
Yes, and I talked to you earlier, and I'll make clear in public too, that it's nothing against you. I appreciate all your hard work very much. So my question was, if when we budget for something and we actually spend less than what we budgeted for, where do those funds go?
So depending on which fund it is, because revenue could actually be down too based on expenditures. So then the cash balance isn't going to change. If it's a special revenue fund, so let me go back to here. If if it's one of these special revenue funds, we'll pick on at risk, then if expenditures are less than revenue, then the cash stays in the fund and we have an unencumbered cash balance that carries forward. There is no unencumbered cash balance carry forward in the general fund, and that revenue would adjust because part of it is based on estimated counts that has to be audited. Supplemental general does have an unencumbered cash balance, but that then is there to help affect the mill levy for the following year.
Thank you for answering that. I appreciate it.
Sure.
And let's make it clear, capital outlay, which is basically what these taxes are supposed to help keep of what the school needs are, does not touch general where staffing is paid.
Correct. There are no staff,
So
no employees paid out of
Any of this
capital outlay fund.
increase is not going to help anybody's pay increase. That comes from whole other different funding sources
Correct.
and has nothing to do with these taxes here. So when anybody is possibly yelling online somewhere, this tax increase does not help the teachers get more pay.
So
My only hesitation in that is, sorry, I'm hitting the wrong buttons here, is the tax increase for the general fund that we cannot adjust. That is, the general fund is operations, it is pay raises, it's all those costs that are going up that we do not control. That part is
But
operations.
most of that is funded through state and federal,
Yes. Yes.
not.
I just want to be clear that
Right, but that's resources from state and federal and not like this listing for the capital outlay.
the
And that's
8 mil-
based on the number of kids in the class. It's
Yes.
the number of those issues that
Yes.
affect that number there.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Murphy, you make a valid point. If you look at the capital outlay mill rate last year, it was at 8. If you were to pass revenue neutral, I believe it's just under 3/4, 0.6 and change.
Mhm.
My concern is moving forward next year because the revenue neutral rate was set last year, actually. The only mill rate left to take from would be the local option budget. And now you would be getting into staff salaries. You cannot affect the general fund, and your bond and interest fund was set by an amortization schedule back in 2018. So the only fund left to take from other than that little piece of capital outlay would be the LOB. So now you would be talking about cuts to staff.
Anything else? Thanks, Beth. I guess, are you done?
I'm done. I'm
Okay,
just
well-
here to answer any questions.
Well, I just asked, anybody got anything else?
I would like to draw back to slide 2 if we can, please.
Of course.
There should be a number that likely jumps off the page to you, and it's the increase in staff salaries. I believe it was 2.2 and change, if I'm reading the screen correctly. It was provided to me earlier today. I know it's been stated, but I don't want to overstate this. There was 26 unfilled positions last year. That number there is planning to fill the teaching positions that we have that I'm sure you all have heard about. So the reason why that number looks like a large increase is because the district is planning to fill those positions and therefore not going and spending that money elsewhere. So to your question earlier, Mrs. Reed, when we don't fill those, obviously the expenditures go down, but that's why it pops off the page like it does. I hope that makes sense.
I was more so trying to get people to pay attention to the charts and do their homework. I think the showing of more people tonight, sorry, I don't think my mic is on, is good. I think more people are paying attention. I had several, comments about the two superintendents for 6-month period. I do think when this board approved that, they made a statement to the community that we're not a money-tight school district. And I think before we go to the taxpayers and ask for more money, we need to look internally and make sure that we don't have anywhere we can cut back. We're losing students consistently every year, so seemingly we should have some areas where we can cut back. And, when we went revenue neutral last year around this time, we had about $9 million in the cash reserve. And even though we went revenue neutral last year, we have $10 million in the cash reserve. So there's no chance that I would even consider not going revenue neutral again.
I mean, specifically to the superintendent having them both at the same time, Dr. Roth was under contract and he had given us notice. And if we were to hire mid-year superintendent, we wouldn't be getting, I mean, we didn't get a ton of applicants whenever we hired Dr. Adams. So I can't even imagine how few we would have gotten hiring one mid-year.
How many applications do we have?
What was it, like 15, I think?
So I was only making the point that if we didn't have the money, we couldn't have done it, right?
Well, we would have had to pay out his contract regardless, whether or not he's still here or we let him go when Dr. Adams came on. We have to pay him.
Well, yeah, I wasn't recommending that. I was stating we wouldn't have been able to hire before he was leaving.
Mr. Reed, you make two valid points I'd like to address, the first of which would be the cash balance that increased despite going revenue neutral last year. What may not be made known well to the public, and I apologize for the lack of transparency on this, is that internally we went and adjusted a year ago after this meeting. And so we reduced the planned capital expenditures as a result. And that's only because of Beth and Matt Dedeke and others that are able to do that and still make sure the priorities are met. So that plan for capital outlay was adjusted to reflect the reduced revenue.
Which, if you remember, is why I asked Mr. Dedeke in the special meeting how he felt the year went, and he stated well. I think as far as I've been shown, whether by district staff, our special meetings, or all the reports I've seen and studied for weeks, the district is in a healthy position, and I do not think it should be asking for anything other than revenue neutral.
And then the only other point I wanted to make is I can assure you that being new, I will have a fresh set of eyes on this budget. And so I will be looking at any and all areas for efficiency. So you do have my promise in that regard.
Thank you.
I'd like to make a motion to publish the budget.
Second.
A motion to publish the budget for 23-24 by Mrs. Wells, second by Mr. Goodman. All in favor? Thank you, Beth.
Thank you very much.
I'm sorry I did that prematurely the last time. Not really, but. Okay, Seed Man, where's Service Center purchases.
Good evening. I'm coming back to you as my annual thing to get some seed to keep our yards looking aesthetically pleasing and safe for our kids, also for the sports fields. Any questions?
Have we used that site one before?
Yes, they used to be John Deere Landscape.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I thought they were.
They just keep changing names.
Yeah, man. Staying ahead of the tax man.
Is this the same one that we've used previously?
Yes, I think we used them last year.
And they're still giving you quality product. You haven't been
Yes.
having any problems
Yep.
with it.
No.
Well, everything looks great. I can tell you that. So keep up the good work.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the seed bid to Site One Landscape Supply in the amount of $33,153.36.
I'll second.
Oh, you.
Who got that second? We have a motion by Mrs. Wells to purchase the grass seed for the next year and seconded by Mrs. Reed. All in favor? Go get that seed. Okay, item 0702, that's it? The rad pads, is that next? Am I looking at that right? Okay.
Red pads is, I believe, the name that's frequently used. So Mr. Dedeke, take it away, please.
Well, good evening. I understand there's some questions about a product that we're bringing to you tonight for use in our elementary schools. I brought a sample. If anybody would like to see it, I'd be happy to pass it along. Basically, this is a rad pad. It was something we purchased in 2020 during our COVID time. We needed that at the time to help meet the criteria of separation. It quickly took place of some of our classroom rugs and has been used within the classroom space, libraries for individual seats. So we're at a point now, I want to say first, this process started right at the end of the school year. I was contacted by a building administrator. We had been observing our area rugs in our elementary classrooms, and they're about 13 years old. as little kids do, we spill things, we get sick on things, we have potty accidents, and through the course of 13 years of trying to extract these carpets and keep them clean, they do have some stains in them. Overall, we try to look for cleanliness within the buildings, good air quality and touch surfaces, especially now, keeping those clean and quickly sanitized. So staying in line with our district decor policies, we tried to limit our soft carpets, our furnitures, and those type of things that are brought in. This is one of those items that we had approved a long time ago, and I think we've gotten a lot of use out of them. So trying to meet the request of an administrator, then two, trying to have those conversations through the summer months, which they're a little bit difficult to reach. We put this together, and ultimately we would be providing, if this was approved, enough of these rad pads to outfit 18 classrooms for each of the 3 elementary schools. Prior to that, we had 50 rad pads purchased for each building, so that brings them up to about 20 classrooms at each of these 3 locations. The nice thing about these rad pads when we talk about cleanliness is they are non-porous. They are made of a material similar to a crock. They're flexible. I spoke with the company today by email about their durability. In 8 years, I think they said they've had to replace 6 to clients that they've sold them to. This one did come from Scott Rice, and the bid was also won by Scott Rice, who provided us all of our furniture for the intermediate school and Lawson Early Education Center. I could go through a lot of the benefits that this could create, and I understand there are some concerns within classroom management, and I did have an opportunity this afternoon to speak with all the administration from those elementary schools. And while they are aware of those concerns, they felt that this was still a best way to go, or they wanted to see something that the kids could sit on, because they agreed that the students need to have a place to sit. So these could be set up however you want to within a classroom. There are some options for putting marking tape on the floor so that they know where they belong. These are items that would potentially be put out prior to class and sit. They are mobile. They can be taken to the gym room or the gym. They can be taken outside for outdoor activities, but they are a very comfortable seat. They seem to be very durable, and they've been within the district for the last 3 years. So the bid was put out over the summer. Bids were received August 11th before everybody came back. And so that is what we have in front of you, is the request to purchase, was it 1,000? I think it was 1,350 units, which would divide out to those classrooms as we, yes, 1,350 units with 135 caddies.
Do we know if they've become frisbees in the classroom by any chance?
I did hear that. I did hear that some of those were used in that way.
Oh, okay.
You said
I'd sure give it a try.
the administrators talked to you about this, and I received an email of some concern from an educator.
Yes.
Did these administrators sit here and have a discussion with their educators? Because there's a few there that don't feel they want to give up their carpets. And they've gone to Nebraska Furniture Mart and gotten the free rug during the free rug giveaway. They've saved them over the years and continue to reuse those. They've spent their own money to purchase rugs to keep the kids comfortable and assigned seating and things. So there seems to be a bit of a pushback about these. I'm just kind of curious if they actually sat down and discussed this with the educators, because they're the ones that are in the room with those kids. The administrators, for the most part, unless they're filling in for a missing staff, aren't in those rooms with those kids on a daily basis.
So I want to be careful to not speak for anybody that's not present that I did not have that conversation with. There's 2 things in that statement. First, we try to provide what we need in the classroom. When we bring in outside rugs, it can add to trip hazards, it can add to cleanliness, those type of things. And in some of our classrooms, we do have those concerns. We address those with the teachers through the administrator. As far as the discussions being had, this was brought to me today. So it was pretty short notice for me to acquire information. And I have had a conversation with one of you and had seen the email as well, but that did not come to me till today. So I did not get to ask all of those questions. I look as a support person for our district administrators. As they ask for things, I try to provide them a resolution to a problem, something that will last us long-term to maximize our spend and provide a product that the students will also be able to use. So I don't know, in fact, that was a conversation had either way, staff to administrator or administrator to staff. So in fairness, I don't want to say yes or no,
Right.
but that's where I'm at right now.
So how are these going to be stored in the classrooms?
The carts.
So they have a vertical caddy. It's basically a
Right,
padded rod that you can stack them on.
was about that big around.
It's
Or
a
larger.
post that sticks up and then they just slide
Right.
over and stack on top of each other.
And then on average, how many kids do we have in a classroom?
Between
20 and
25 and plus or minus.
So we would have to have 3 separate caddies in each room. Is there room enough in each classroom to store
I would say there would be room
those?
along a wall.
Okay. And then I'm a little bit concerned about the logistics of having these things in the classroom. So typically, at least from my memory in second grade, we had everybody come for story time. And I assume that's kind of what this is for. Correct me if I'm wrong. Have everybody get together for story time or some sort of lesson where they sit down on the floor. Typically, we all just came and sat directly on the floor. Some places had carpets. I'm old school. We just had the linoleum, the cold linoleum. And it's basically, it's very quick. They get out of the seats, they go sit down on the carpet, and we start the lesson. With these, they're going to have to get out of their seats, go over to one of the 3 caddies that are holding these, and individually, one by one, grab one out, either pass it to their friend or grab one themselves and walk it over to the. It just seems to add additional time to
Taking time away from the actual lesson
taking
just to
time
set it
away
up and
from
break it
actual
down.
instruction time to logistically maneuver all of these things over. I mean, obviously they could be pre-positioned, but then now they're pre-positioned all over the floor. I would imagine if we took 25 to 30 of these and tiled them all in a reasonable distance away from other kids, that it would take up a substantial amount of the classroom. Those are kind of part of the concerns that I have with this. Just outside of the lowest bid is $70,000 for them, including the caddies, which pretty much puts these at about $38 a pop. Which is I don't doubt the durability. I think it's a great product for what it actually does. I just don't think that logistically speaking, usefulness speaking, that it really satisfied what we're trying to do. I do kind of like the idea of having the area rugs. What about, have we looked at what is the cost benefit of either replacing the area rugs or cleaning the area rugs?
So the area rugs have been cleaned. They get cleaned every year. It takes about 1.5 to 2 days for our custodial staff to pull all of them to the gymnasium, clean them, flip them, clean them again, and we still don't get them 100% clean. They are 13 years old, so some of them are starting to show their wear. Cost, these are 2/3 more expensive. To be honest with you, rugs, probably around $20,000. This is $70,000. Now, we're two different budgets here as well.
Right.
The 20-something thousand would be a capital expense that we did not plan for. So this kind of goes back to everything we talked about. The other piece, what we have in front of us, is ESSER $2, which was designed for trying to keep kids healthy and provide cleanable surfaces and educational tools.
Was this the ESSER 2 or the ESSER 3?
ESSER 2, yes.
Because it says ESSER 3 on here.
Does it say ESSER 3?
Yeah,
Yes.
it says ESSER 3.
I apologize. I believe it was ESSER 2. Is it ESSER 3?
It's ESSER 3.
What's
ESSER 3.
Sorry.
Then I'm wrong. So ESSER 3.
So it is ESSER $3. Okay. Can we not use the ESSER $3 for new carpeting?
No.
What's the?
So a lot of the criteria, I don't want to step on.
No, go ahead.
Ms. Maddox. A lot of the criteria with the ESSER dollars is prevention of illness. So it's the separation, it's the things to help with student learning. And yes, you could probably argue some of that, but it is how the state would interpret the request for purchase.
Because I mean, as far as cleaning these things
Yeah,
goes,
daily decontamination.
what's the process for cleaning?
So those,
Because there's 30 in a classroom and 18 classrooms per school, so that's quite a few. What is the process to
so
clean
those,
these, and how
those can
often
be
do
wiped
they
off
get
with
cleaned?
the cleaner that we already supplied to the classrooms during the flu season, which is a Suprox cleaner. Those can take a degreaser. They can take Lysol wipes. They can take any kind of cleaner that we would supply to the teacher. If we did come in and do a spray like we do in the wintertime when we have a high increase of illnesses in classrooms, we use an atomizer to spray the room. Those could be laid out, sprayed, stacked right back on top of each other and move on because they have air gaps under, they will dry. Where carpet, yeah, we can vacuum it. We can spray it. When you spray carpet, it can get tacky. It can track more dirt. It can get dirtier, which would require more cleaning. So
Do we steam clean
we do not
carpeting?
steam clean. We do water extraction only.
Well, I mean, as far as when you say water extraction, are you using a steam cleaner like device,
to
but it's spray water on and then extract the water out of it?
But there's no steam.
There's no chemicals, or there's no steam. Okay.
It's typically a mild detergent,
right,
with clean water.
Okay.
And you pull
So
the water
basically,
out
like
as much as you can.
Like my Bissell at home. where
Pretty much like your Bissell.
Clean up the dog mess.
Yep. But we stay away from the steam for obvious reasons. We can injure somebody. We can cause damage to the floor surfaces underneath. When you introduce hot steam to a polished floor, you'll cloud it and those type of things. But
okay, so it's a water extraction cleaning.
that is how we treat them. This.
I still think the logistics of having a single person come in, extract all of these out of their spindles, because they're basically 3 different spindles, and they just thread down through. I looked up the picture of it, and that's what it basically looks like.
Yep.
They still have to pull one out individually. Have we estimated how long it takes for a single person to do that?
I have
clean
not.
everything.
I have not.
And then put everything back into
No.
the spindle, and how long it takes I assume the janitorial staff will be in charge of disinfecting these.
We
And
would,
will
we
they be
would
done
play
on
a
a
portion of that. Yes, we would
daily,
play a part in it.
weekly, monthly basis?
Let me see that thing.
So all good questions. Those are really undetermined.
Okay.
How do we clean classrooms right
Well,
now?
I mean, we have
for
50 of them now, right?
I'm sorry?
How are we already have like 50 of these?
Correct.
Right. How are they?
For the most
being
part, they're
handled
being
currently?
utilized in a library setting, so they're probably not used as frequently
Okay.
as if they were in a classroom taking place of a rug.
Okay.
How they need to be cleaned or how we would clean would really depend on the need of the classroom. Just like we can't clean every desktop in between classes when it's cold and flu season, we do ask for help. We do provide the materials to the teachers, whether it's a roll of paper towels and some Suprox, which is a safe contact hydrogen peroxide cleaner.
Right.
And we ask them, if you feel like it needs a little bit of touch up, please do so. Tell us when you need more. And then we try to have a good relationship with our custodial team and our teachers in that building. And so far, since 2020, we've done a pretty good job maintaining pretty healthy schools. You make valid points. Again, my role was a request, try to look for a solution. And you guys know what I look for. I try to look for durability and longevity. So I only have to come to you once for something. If you want to go carpets, just know that I had 3 administrators had asked for something different. And we might be back here in 5 to 6 years purchasing more rugs.
Okay.
But I'm trying to just bring a solution. I'm really not.
Well, I would think if you had the diameter right on the stand, you could pull 20 or 30 of those off at one time.
Well, no, they only hold 10.
Yeah.
Well,
That's as high as they go. I mean, we could craft a solution where there's a larger
I don't know that there's a
spindle,
problem
but I don't
yet
think there's
for the delivery of them in the classroom.
Right.
So
okay.
Again, it's great questions.
I'd like to propose that we postpone approving or declining this request and ask administration in each of the 3 buildings that we're looking at. We don't have it at Lawson. We're just looking at the 3 elementaries.
Correct. Lawson has some of these. They told me they do not need it. They have enough other toys and toys. They have other alternative seating, the grass balls, those type of things that they did not request anymore.
Okay, I'd like to see what the classroom teachers would like
Yeah.
to facilitate their learning environment. If this is something that they want to utilize, like can they take it into their room and play around with it and make sure that it's something that they like or don't like? And then get back and hear their feedback collaboratively from each building, what they would like, and then hear those proposals again, is what I would like to propose.
Plus, I would like to hear how they've been accepted within the library setting, how the kids have handled it, whether the librarians or the teacher that's in there, how they're liking it. Because if it's kind of like me, it's there because we have it and not.
And a library setting might actually be a better use for it, because typically if it's a classroom setting, we're going to have them sit down for story time for 10, 15 minutes.
I received an email from a library setting. Did you not receive one from the
I guess I
library
didn't get it from the library setting. I got it from a classroom setting, and they were not as excited
I'd like
about
to in
it.
particular see Lawson. I mean, if we've already had
Yeah.
it there, that's to me is kind of the acid test.
Right.
Those kids haven't even begun to have the kind of level of classroom discipline, and I think it'd give us an idea, at least if we don't do it to kindergarten, first grade, maybe second or third, where they reach the point to be able to regulate their activity. So I would particularly like to hear Lawson's take on their use of.
Plus,
these-
Lawson has those grass pads and things like that. And that may be something that's a little bit more acceptable for the lower elementary school grades.
So what are we asking Matt to do? What are we asking him to look at?
I had spoken with him this afternoon. Thank you again for all your good work. And I had asked Mr. Adams, I was trying to say your first name and your last name at one time, and Mr. Dedeke to take it off the agenda like you proposed. So I support that. I had spoken with Mr. Dedeke about a middle ground, which I think is always important when we can find it. So I looked up since I got off the phone with you, just to make sure I was correct on that. So there is a material that is easily wipeable. I don't know if you've seen like any of the puzzle-like toddler mats that can be flooring. It's that material made for a classroom setting with the student spots. So we won't have the issue of the carpeting, and maybe it'll even apply as a material that the ESSER dollars can be used for. I would like to look into that. And I just want to remind everyone, even when we're talking about ESSER dollars, we're still talking about tax dollars. So I think if we're going to go the route of postponing it for more investigation, I'm ecstatic.
And also just for another clarification too, if I remember everything that I've been hearing over the years of utilizing ESSER 1, 2, and 3, if you do not use it, you lose it.
Correct. It goes back to the federal government.
Thank you.
Which is great. If we don't need the tax dollars, we shouldn't be spending them.
Right.
So Ms. Wells, here's what I think I heard. You'd like to hear from both our administrators as well as our teachers on their current perceptions, lived experiences from our library staff as well as Lawson staff, in addition to other potential alternatives that would achieve the same objective. Did I properly capture what you're after?
As well as what the teachers that haven't experienced it yet, what they would like to see.
Yeah, sorry, they were in that first two.
Okay.
Yep.
And I did get that email. I guess I missed the part about.
Did I capture everybody's, just so I can make sure we facilitate that for the September 11th meeting?
I think you missed one point though, and that was what Ms. Reed mentioned. That was, are there health alternative materials for rug? It doesn't have to be the traditional rug material. There are new materials that are coming out that in fact could pass the ESSER 3.
Everything that I'm seeing here is really questioning the need to even have anything at all. I don't want to disparage the fact that we have some delicate heinies out there, but I don't know if there's an actual need for something beyond the rugs that they've been talking about in the emails that we've seen.
So Mr. Goodman, are you proposing we stick with the carpets we've had for 13 years, just replace them out of capital outlay for 20,000, did you say?
I would say ballpark.
Is that what you're
20
suggesting or something
plus.
different?
Just
I'm
a natural.
understanding him to just have butts on linoleum without anything.
No.
Well, I don't think we need to go that far. The emails that I've gotten were, we love the carpeting that we have. They're dirty, but they are functional and they do what
we want them to do all by themselves, we'd like to keep going with that system. If we need to refresh the carpets or replace the carpets, I would be on board with something like that.
I heard that from one staff member.
So are you,
Okay,
All of the
I've,
staff members.
okay.
are you against seeing if we can get an item that is similar to the carpet and the structure that they love, but will qualify for the ESSER $3? A new type of,
I'm not, I mean, I'm for whatever the teachers want to have in the
Okay.
classroom. And that was the impression that I got reading these 2 emails that I got from our educators was,
we're on the same page with that,
Yeah,
giving the teachers what they
I
want.
think we're all on the same page here. I think that they like the carpeting. They don't want the Frisbees or the kids whacking each other with the stuff. I don't know that it is enhancing the learning experience by having these. I think a more simpler approach of simply having a pre-planned carpeted area where they can direct their children, okay, it's time to have reading time. Let's everybody gather together. Kids already kind of, once they've gone through a couple of these rituals, they pretty much pick out where they want to sit on the little colored circle or the truck or whatever pattern is on the carpet that these teachers enjoy having in there.
So I'm going for the same thing, except it's not actual carpet, but it looks exactly very similar to what their carpet does now. It's just a material that might qualify to be used in the ESSER $3.
So if I may,
That's the other thing is, maybe we do find something that is compliant with the ESSER $3. I don't understand why carpeting doesn't qualify as.
This allows you to separate. Carpet with dots 1 foot apart does not.
Okay.
That's
That's
my
the
general take
ESSER
on it.
criteria.
Well,
it's got to be
to
social
help
distancing.
prevent spread of illness.
And these are the puzzle piece, like,
6 feet again.
so you can separate them, but when they're together, they look like the carpeting with the different spots. So I feel like I'm hoping it will meet both needs.
Well, I mean, yeah, I've got a nursing class at church, and we just use carpet squares that are basically the.
And we want to avoid those
Right.
becoming trip hazards.
so we'll gather input from staff that
Yes,
aren't yet
I
using
guess
them.
that's going to be the result of the board is we'll gather input and see if there's something else.
We'll also gather feedback from those that have been using them.
That's what I'd like to see most of is, hey, our administrators should get with the teachers and say, hey, what do you guys really need?
And then step 3 is we'll deliver likely a couple alternatives and make sure that they are both ESSER appropriate as well as achieve the objective we're after.
Sounds good.
Sound like a game plan?
Sounds like a plan.
Mr. Dedeke, you have your marching orders.
I think we wore this pad out. All right, let's move on. You got your directions, right?
Thank you all for the conversation.
We anticipate that for September.
It will be our goal for the September meeting if we can. Yeah. So
Is there a contract, Matt, is there a contract
Oh.
problem as far as the bids? At what
Do
point
we have
do the
any sort
bids,
of, we need to take this
die?
now or we have to rebid?
Yeah, at what point do the bids expire?
So that I normally anymore it's within probably about 20 days. So that's a good point. This was not on a co-op. This was a straight bid. So this went out to, I believe, 5. They were listed for you. Some internet sales, local or not local, but our vendor that we bought the school furniture from. So I don't know that it had an expiration on it, but I will say that they are about an 8 to 12 week lead time. So if we come back in September, it'll be end of November before they would arrive, if that was chosen. Carpets may have a shorter lead time if that's something, or an alternative product. So timing in some of these classrooms, they currently have some that are missing because of just the sheer damage to them. They had been removed. So we have some classrooms without carpets that they're just working through.
Aren't we on the buy board program as well? Don't we get to do where you go in, kind of like with that co-op of buying, to
We
where
do.
we may be able to find it less expensive?
I can check. I did a little checking.
Yeah, it sounds like you didn't have a lot of time leeway to work up
So
toward
the
this.
initial piece on that one was based on the quantity. It was a little bit more advantageous to go out to bid on that one because the manufacturer I think was able to work a better price for us. So quantities.
But could the buy board have more of what the teachers wanted?
Could be.
You know, just if it cost thousand more
Sure.
of the ESSER dollars, but he gave them what they wanted and needed. Okay.
Correct. Yeah, we
So-
can do some more checking once we figure out which
Okay.
direction we need to go.
And one last thing I'd like you to add on to your list, see if there's any other classrooms that have these and they use them, and what is their experience with it? Did they like it? Did they keep it, or did
Out
they
of district.
eject it as quickly as they could?
Great point.
In another district.
Right, in another school district, another, it doesn't have to be, local, it can be anywhere. This company is trying to sell these nationwide, so.
Let's check with our peers in surrounding districts with your
Yeah.
network and
See if
also within
anybody
mine.
else has used these and if they're
Great
popular or
suggestion.
not. Right, thank you.
Thank you.
Are we ready for the magic carpet ride? All right. Number 8, superintendent report.
I'm not
You
sure
get
it
to
qualifies.
shine.
Yeah, I'm not sure it qualifies as a magic carpet ride, but thank you. First, I want to tell you my perception, which is that we've had a very positive beginning to the 23-24 school year. And I want to say thank you to our students, our families, and our staff for your collective patience and perseverance as we familiarize ourselves with everything from the flow of arrival and dismissal to a brand new breakfast and lunch service. Organizing a district of 3,500 plus students and 600 plus staff every single day is no small task. So thank you to everybody involved with that. Second is our back to school nights. I felt like those were very successful, but we do have one more on tap for you. It's actually August 22nd, tomorrow night at our flagship LVHS, and it'll be from 6 o'clock until 8 o'clock p.m. So if you haven't yet had the chance, I would encourage you to make it out. We did receive some good feedback regarding the timing of our back to school events, and we are aware of those logistical challenges and frustrations, and we want to let you know that we hear you. And so our staff is already internally reflecting about a better schedule for next year that will allow families that have students in multiple buildings to be able to accommodate that. So thank you to all that gave feedback in that regard. Clearly tonight, there is a very hot and real topic regarding our budget. And as a result, we would like to allow additional time for people to have their questions answered. And so we're going to be hosting 2 online virtual Q&A sessions that are specific to this topic only. That'll be on Thursday, August the 31st, and we're going to do 2 sessions as we do realize people have different work schedules and otherwise. So our first session is from 1:30 to 2:30 p.m., and then we'll repeat at 4:30 to 5:30 p.m. The good thing is, though, if you cannot make either one, we're going to record those and post them on our district YouTube channel. Our intent here is to engage with patrons about this important topic and help to hopefully elevate understanding about our budget as well as school finance issues in general. Mr. Potter's team will be sharing information later this week with how you can join. But for now, if you would please make sure you mark your calendar for one or both of those events. My final point tonight is with regard to the strategic plan, as our focus for the last several weeks has been on opening the doors of a new school year and obviously developing a budget for review and approval. We will now shift to the strategic plan and put it back at the forefront next month as we seek a second phase of input that will help us to define the 5 objectives, the 5 action areas, and then obviously the objectives and steps to get there. Those areas for you, just in case you have forgotten: teaching and learning, student engagement and support services, staffing and personnel, family and community involvement, and finally, finance and operations. I would stand for any questions, but that concludes my report.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I wanted to thank you for following through with my question on the schedules for the student time and for working with the staff to adjust those. I was really happy with that.
My pleasure.
And do we have a proposed date for the next planning session for the strategic plan?
Mr. Potter, I'm looking at you. Not yet.
Are we going to get through the budget and then look at it?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Fantastic.
Great question.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you for your report. Now, we're going to go into,
How much time? 10.
well, read the leaving. Yeah.
Mr. President, I move we go into executive session to discuss the emergency operation plan pursuant to the exception under the Kansas Open Meetings Act for school security matters to ensure the security of the school, its buildings, and or its systems is not jeopardized, and that we return to open session in this room at
Matt, how much time? Who's
we need 10
doing?
minutes plus another 5 for.
Are you doing this? Who's doing this?
7.
10
minutes total.
So
So invitees will be Amy Sloan, Matt Dedeke, and our board attorney, Mr. Angela.
7:50.
And then we're gonna add a, what do you
5-minute
call it, a bio break? Yeah.
It's already built in.
So come in at 7:50 invite Dr. Adams, Amy Sloan, Matt Dedeke, and Robert Hingula, the board attorney.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion going to executive session. By Mrs. Wells, second by Mrs. Murphy. All in favor? Bio on.
Okay,
Five.
are we back in session?
Yes, ma'am.
Who took the time? We'll take the time.
Mr. President, I move we go into executive session for consultation with our attorney pursuant to the exception for matters which would be deemed privileged in the attorney-client relationship under the Kansas Open Meetings Act, and that we return to this room in 20 minutes at 8:21. The board would like to invite Dr. Adams, Amy Sloan, Jake Potter, and our board attorney.
Second.
We got a motion going to executive session by Mrs. Wells, second by Mrs. Murphy. All in favor? 20 minutes, you said?
Mhm.
Okay. And so we'll be back in here.
8:21.
8:21.
The board president is walking over. Mr. President, I move we go into executive session to discuss non-elected personnel pursuant to the exception under the Kansas Open Meetings Act in order to protect the privacy interests of the individuals to be discussed, and that we return to open session in this room in 10 minutes at 9:11. The board would like to invite Dr. Adams, Amy Sloan, and the board attorney, Robert Hingula.
Second.
Got a motion, we're back in executive session for some more fun. By Mrs. Wells and second by Mrs. Murphy. 7?
I'll buy pizza next time. Do this military way, first in, first out, so we can all file in, file out.
I agree. Mr. President, I'd like to approve the staffing report as presented.
Second. Yield to Jack.
Got a motion by Mrs. Wells to approve the
You
staff
got it
report,
now.
second by Ms. Murphy, I guess. that right?
Mr. Jack,
Pardon me?
John.
I
Oh,
yield to
Mr. Goodman.
Jack.
Everybody's so eager to do that. Where are we? Should be on- Who?
To accept.
All those
Oh,
in favor?
oh, yeah. 7-0, 6-0, 6-0, 6-1.
Upcoming meeting dates.
Pardon me? Let's see, upcoming meeting dates. So tomorrow's open house at LHS. 30th half-day school, September 4th, Labor Day, no school. Any cheers out there from anybody? Oh. The 911 meeting is budget hearing, September 13th, half-day school. September 29th, homecoming. Is there going to be a parade?
Yes.
Okay.
2:00.
And October 9th, is it? No, yeah, October 9th, board meeting to be held at Leavenworth High School.
Yep. So I'd like to draw your attention to that just for a
Yeah.
second. Per a lot of conversation that's gone on here, we would like to start hosting one board meeting at a building each semester. So October the 9th will be held at LHS, final location pending there. But the idea being to get a board meeting back into a building. So one in the fall, one in the spring.
Okay. October 11th, workday, parent-teacher conferences, no school, and October 12th, parent-teacher conference, no school. Any unscheduled patron? No? Amazing. And we're down to board member comments. We'll start with Mrs. Reed.
I just want to thank everyone that came and spoke about the budget tonight. And I want to thank Ms. Maddox and everyone involved for all their hard work on the budget. And Mr. Dedeke with capital outlay and all the good things. And want to speak a little bit, even though we discussed the flooring earlier, that I super appreciate staff feedback. I love it when I check my email and I've got an email from someone that's actually interacting with kids that comes really rarely. So just want to encourage that. And I also want to thank those that reached out regarding whether it was staff meetings or emails or whatever they received. I just know that nothing's being ignored that I'm aware of. If you feel like I'm ignoring something, come and speak to me. But just want to make sure that we're continuously working on communication, better environments, and moving forward together. Thank you.
Mr. Goodman?
I'd like to echo the statements. Thanks, Beth, for putting that together. You always do a fantastic job. Thanks, Matt, for taking the slings and arrows questions for that. I've known Matt for a long time. He's done a great job. All our staff does a great job. I just want to reiterate that. Thank you very much. I appreciate the board. I really do. I like bouncing ideas off of you guys and getting different perspectives on things. So it's not Board Appreciation Month, but I'll just go ahead and go early. I'm grateful for the staff. Apparently, we've had a good first year. My kids are already coming home tired, which is great. From all the stuff that our staff helps with. So with that, I appreciate everything. That's all.
Ms. Murphy?
I want to say we've had a really great opening week. I know today was the last day of soft start for Lawson Early Childhood. So tomorrow it will be all the students in the classroom all the day. So I'm holding you all in my thoughts to the educators because I know that's still going to be a nice little transition and hope that it remains successful. I know the kids are all super excited. I will echo one particular child. Lawson's the bestest school ever. I hear it every day. So if we can make sure everybody else comes out of their buildings feeling the same way, then we will truly have a huge accomplishment. And it always starts with one. I want to thank the kids at Nettie for the snacks. I might get a bite or two, but I'm sure the child that thinks that Lawson's the bestest school ever will probably take them all. So it'll still go to a good home. I want to ask that parents please participate with your kids as much as possible. If you're seeing some struggles, please sit there, reach out to the counselors. If they don't feel comfortable reaching out to the counselors, talk to your kids if they're having problems in schools, because the kids are there to learn. And I know everybody has a dynamics and it's hot. It's still summer. Tempers can fly. Along with the hormones. So just talk to them, feel it out, find out what's going on, and maybe with communication, things could be resolved a little bit better and more quickly. And I'm looking forward to a successful year. Thank you.
Wells?
So Mr. Kramer initially mentioned the LV Arts in the Park on Saturday. There is tons of service organizations that are involved in this, not just LV Arts. They're the one who brought it in, but they've contacted lots and lots and lots of our local businesses and artists and service organizations. If you have the opportunity to swing by, the heat should break on Saturday. It's at Stubby Park. It begins at 10. It's supposed to end at 6. There is a full schedule of singing performances, dancing performances, as well as people set up to display their art. There's students that have their artwork out there, as well as all community members. This is the very first year for this organization. LV Arts is still pretty new in our community, but they are here to support. And please, if you can stop in, see what they're about, ask to join them. It's my understanding there's no cost to join. And there's no cost to the event itself. And then this was a very long meeting tonight. We had a great discussion. The budget is extremely important. The budget hearing is at next meeting, and I am not going to be present for that. I will be traveling. I will try to attend via Zoom if at all possible, but I am not committing that I will be here, and I apologize. I know it's very important. That is it for me tonight.
Danielle,
Thank you.
isn't that they're gonna have? Is it Mr. Stinky Feet? I think. Is it?
There's seriously
Some
at
very
least
popular-
20
there.
There's
Yes.
20 different performances happening. They've got a whole lineup schedule. So,
And don't forget the 20th annual tournament
oh,
from Thursday through Saturday.
that's not me.
Are you finished?
I am.
Mr. Powell?
Yeah, I went to the open houses on all of the schools except for high school, of course, high school coming up, which I won't make it. I'm sorry. I'm still going to come see you guys. I know it broke your heart, right? And Anthony, I will get there to see the staff and thank them for what they're doing. It was good to see teachers with, when we talk about kids, it was good to see teachers with smiles on their faces. They were wore out at the end of the night, but you could see when they hugged and grabbed kids, particularly, the older kid and then the sibling was coming in, do to him what you did to me kind of conversations. It was just good. It was good to see us go back to school. And so I thank all of you that made that a success, and that we're ready for the kids to come in. And I know that we're now in school, so the clock's really started, but I can see that we can have a good year. And I go back to what I challenged the district before: start fresh. It's a new year, leave the past problems in the past, which leads me to a couple of comments that I wanted to make. And I wondered, what was the board going to do to start fresh, put the problems in the past, and help this district have a good school year? Somewhere along the way from COVID hell, we lost our way a little bit. There used to be a common phrase that you heard a lot in this room, and it was, let's just give a little bit of grace. And that was so powerful. It allowed us to put our differences aside, find common solutions, and do some really amazing board work. So if you look back at previous board meetings over the past 2 years, we've kind of got into this habit of addressing other board member issues and not real district issues. So I guess my challenge, and that goes for all of us, this isn't pointed at any particular person, or there's plenty to go around. So I would just ask that us as a board step back again and ask yourself the question: am I really addressing a board issue, or am I addressing an issue that could be left to exercise a little grace and tend to our own sins? I mean, that's what kids expect us to do, is lead by example. So maybe we can start this year and we're going to focus on the real issues and give just a little bit of grace. The second thing was I really enjoyed tonight. And the reason why I enjoyed tonight was because of all of the good dialogue that we had in trying to determine what is best for this school district. And I want to thank every one of you tonight for that. I mean, it was amazing, because good policy demands good deliberation. And it's one of the reasons why the I policy was withdrawn, because there was critique but no recommendation. We need each other. We need the time we're given to thoughtfully consider our individual concerns if we're to make good policy. We're each gifted in unique experiences and views. And I just got to tell you, I mean, I find it valuable, but I think it's valuable for all of us when we share this. We're a better board. But they have to be shared to be valuable. So I would just challenge us this year that to make this a great year, that we refocus on the district issues. We'll work together just like we did tonight. And as a teacher said, we just need to do our homework. And it's going to be a great year. And I want to tell each of you how much I appreciate sitting on the board with you. And I look forward to the time that I've got left on the board. And I think that we can do great things. Mr. President, thank you for the time.
Ma'am?
That's
Ms.
it.
Price?
Thank you. So yes, I wanted to say thank you to the Netty folks for the snacks. You guys are going to make my scale break eventually, but I appreciate all the good stuff. I'm excited for back to school, just because teachers have been working hard all year, and I really appreciate the efforts from our HR and our teaching and learning staff to bring New Teacher Academy and Convocation into place, because without teachers and staff, we can't do what we need to do for our kids. So thank you to everybody for making all that happen. And it seems like we're off to a good start. I ask everybody out in the community, once again, please, please, please watch out for students at crosswalks, and at bus stops. And please, for the love of all that is holy, if you are behind a bus and the stop sign goes out or the red flashing lights start, would you please STOP? I saw vehicles today actually go around a bus that was stopped. Urgh. Okay, so I got that out of my head. Please stop. It's for everyone's safety. It's not a suggestion, it's law, and it keeps people safe. And I really, 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 really want us all to be safe. Yeah, period. And also my fellow board members, on the 5th of September, the KASB Region 1 listening tour will be here at 8 o'clock. So to all of our board members, it'd be great to see you there. And other than that, thanks for a great start to a new year. Go Pioneers. Mr. President.
I went out to Warren on the first day of school and observed the lunch, and I participated in the lunch, and I was quite pleased with it. I told Mr. Kettler after I got to thinking about it, I think it'd be nice if we got some feedback from kids about how their food's tasting, since it's a whole new world. What?
They love it.
So far.
Okay, the kids have answered. So that's, but no, really, I think that's important. And in line with that, I meant to bring this up to Dr. Adams about a couple weeks ago, but at the last national conference, I went to one particular session, and it was in Dearborn, Michigan, and they have a school board of students, which I thought was pretty cool. And the kids were there giving a presentation. And there's a video that I'm going to give you the guy's phone number. I think you ought to contact him. I'd like to see something like that happen. I've always wanted to have kids involved. If the journalism class came out here and did a session and put something out for the paper or whatever, but I think kids need to get to these board meetings, not a whole bunch, of course, but I think they need to get involved and kind of get their civics up to speed. But I know there's going to be repetition. My wife is my co-sponsor on the food service, and she's got her own thing. But I think that duplicating the Tuesday, Thursday meals, Monday, Wednesday always seem like they're duplicated. Is that right? Is that what you're seeing? Tuesday, Thursday will be beef burritos or on chips, and then a optional cheeseburger. Right. I hope they can mix it up a little bit more personally. I think we can probably pass that along to Johnny or whoever.
Ms. Price, could you elaborate on that tour a little bit? Is that public? Is that who's?
It's not public,
Yeah.
but our board members are invited to come. It's
Perfect.
by invitation, so
Thank you.
our board members can attend.
Well, I had a letter here from a student, but I'll save that for the next meeting. We're adjourned. My granddaughter